Heyo, Ashley Monet here. It has been far, far too long, ages, since I've last done a Pantone challenge video. That is a situation that must be remedied. Now, since it's been so long since I last did one of these videos, I feel it's kind of necessary for me to go back over some of the logistics for how I do this challenge because I do deviate from the norm. So typically the Pantone challenge is creating mini paintings on Pantone swatches. And you do one swatch per day. I think the original challenge is supposed to last 100 days. I just like the mini painting part. And I actually use Walmart paint swatches instead of the Pantone for a couple of reasons. First, the Walmart swatches have a little bit of roughness to them, so you can paint directly on them without any prep. Pantone cards are super smooth, so you usually have to do like a coat of clear gesso before you begin painting so everything sticks. Walmart swatches just don't have that issue. They're still a good size for the mini paintings. Also, all of the Walmart swatches have names, which is what I like to use as inspiration for what I actually paint on them. And it helped me divide my swatches into categories, which I tackle for each episode. So last time, category was fantasy, and I painted a bunch of fun little fantasy bits and bobs. And the time before that, the category was food. Everybody loves food. And this time around, based on popular vote, our category is animals. Very, very excited for these. Also for today, I'm going to be using these Artex liquid ink acrylic markers, of which the set comes with 36 colors. And I have to say, this set is going to be the last new art supply I'm going to be trying on my channel for the foreseeable future. I had to have a little bit of a harsh reality talk with myself, and I have so many art supplies. I mean, look at all of those paint markers. Like, these will never get used if I keep getting new stuff. Here are my alcohol markers, so many, and I need more storage for them already. Oh my gosh, even colored pencils. I feel like it'll be 10 years before I use all of these up. So yeah, this is it for the time being, but I really wanted to try these because I have heard very good things. So here we have the color variety. As you can see, the majority of these are all very fun, bright colors. Now that could be a good or kind of a thing depending on your preference. My art tends to swing a little more towards realism, so I prefer a good range of like muted and neutral colors. Again, though, this set is only available with 36 colors, but hey, maybe eventually they'll expand the line, add a few more neutrals in the future, please guys. But for now, I definitely think we can make do with these. There are still a lot of good colors here. And a totally random aside, Artex also sent me this sketchbook. It's the first time they've ever sent me one, and I am friggin' obsessed with this. Like, this olivey color is just to die for. But oh my gosh, when you see it in the sun, it's so pretty and sparkly. The cover of a killer, Bella. And the paper actually seems really nice too. I'm obviously not going to use this today. I just wanted to geek out over it, and I'm going to have to marinate on something special to do with it. Because she's special. Okay, seriously, stop rambling though. Enough of me talking. Let's jump right in and see what I can create. Our first swatch is Ostrich Feather, which is kind of a light, warm gray. So naturally, if we're operating around the name, it should be obvious that we will be painting an ostrich. In hindsight, I am certain I have never painted nor drawn an ostrich before this date. Oh, I'm gonna tell you, they are some weird looking critters for sure. I was definitely out of my element and sort of wished that I had started with something a little easier, a little more in my wheelhouse. But the great thing about acrylic markers, well, acrylic paint in general, is just that it's super easy to fix your mistakes. You just gotta like let it dry and cover it up. As I got to see these markers in action, oh, I started falling in love with them. So you guys know I've been on a long odyssey to find the perfect brush tip acrylic markers. The original Artex brush tips did not do it for me. Some worked nicely, but I quickly had dryness issues with them. Next came the Simp Taps, which I really did like. They had a good color variety, they were nice and juicy, but they do require like constant shaking and pumping. And pumping them does tend to make a bit of a mess. Like, to me, those issues were trivial, and the Simp Taps have been holding my favorite acrylic marker spot ever since. But these, well, they definitely gave the Simp Taps a run for their money. They have that same juiciness. You do still have to shake them quite aggressively and often, but there's no pumping. And no pumping means no mess. Overall, they're just a bit easier to use. Like, they're ready to go. Anyways, I feel like the ostrich was finally coming together, which made me so happy. And from there, I felt comfortable calling it done. I actually kind of love that sweet little ostrich face. So let's move on to the next. Kangaroo Paw, this soft blushy pink. That would be a good color for a nursery. And it was with those innocent baby vibes in mind, I decided to not only paint a kangaroo, but to make it a baby kangaroo, a Joey, tucked inside mommy's pouch. Far too often while raising my newborns, I found myself wishing that humans were marsupials. Like how easy it would have been to just tuck baby in the pouch instead of having to pull out that dang baby carrier, which was always a tangled mess. Mother Nature got it right with the kangaroos. As I worked on this painting, I really felt the absence of neutral colors. This set has a total of 3 browns, all very warm, golden, almost orangey browns. No tans, no peaches. So it was really hard to get that true kangaroo tone. I relied on using the swatch color itself as a mid-tone between the browns and the pale, yellowy white, which is a bit bizarre, but it's gonna have to do. The darkest brown is also not very dark, so for a lot of the darkest areas, I had to improvise with either a dark gray or this random olivey color. It wasn't looking great, so I just decided to stop messing with it and kind of wrap it up. Do the background, made another questionable choice choosing purple, but whatever. It's too late to go back now. I tried to bring it back down to earth by adding some grass, which I actually did like until I tried the lightest green, which from the cap appeared very lime green, but it was actually a very cool toned, almost mint green. So I worked in some yellow to try and warm it up. That did help. And finally, I just said, you know what, good enough. So that's Kangaroo Paw. It's not perfect, but kangaroos can't be anything but cute. So this one passes. The next swatch was Whiskers, this nice pale gray. Okay, sure, lots of animals have whiskers, but I would be stripped of my cat lady title if I didn't paint a cat on this swatch. Again, though, without a lot of neutrals, I was torn on what kind of cat to do. An orange tabby would have probably been the best fit with the colors I had, but the kangaroo ended up looking so orange that I didn't want to do the same thing over again. Like, I hate repeating myself. So instead, I decided to take a stab at a Siamese cat and figured this is where I could put the blending ability of these markers to the test. In the previous swatches, I had really just used kind of a strokey, impressionistic kind of application, but oof. The blends were rough. Out of the gate, I tried directly mixing with the markers themselves, just going back and forth between colors. That was a disaster, and it really mucked up the colors of each marker. I was able to get them back to normal with a few little swipes on some scratch paper, and I did find a more effective blend method later down the road, but for right now, I just went back to simple strokes. I went with that olive for the background. Actually kind of like that. And then tightened up a few little last minute details, but then it's juicy highlight time. Voila! Now our kitty has whiskers, and the whiskers swatch can be considered complete. I'll always love a kitty painting, but something about this one is off. Is it the eyes? I don't know. I'm getting Michael Jackson Thriller. Okay, up next is Ponytail, this nice warm tan. Now, if it wasn't obvious, I had a pony in mind for this swatch, and the color immediately made me think of the super pretty buckskin Mustangs. Like Spirit. Oh, don't make me cry. So that's what we're gonna do. Although as I'm editing, I am realizing this is virtually the horse version of a Siamese cat with the brown point muzzle and whatnot. Like, darn. So much for me not repeating myself. Oh, and this is where I kind of figured out that dabbing the colors was the easiest way to blend them. At least on these swatch cards. I definitely want to try blending them on paper. I do think they're going to blend well because they're so juicy, and the fact of the matter is the longer your paint stays wet, like the easier it is to blend. I will say the base color of this swatch actually really worked in my favor to make a better transition to those browns. And I thought a good background color for some contrast would be a nice little blue. All that was left to do was add all of the highlights. I think that really brought it to the next level, but then I realized I forgot a few little details, so threw those in. And that's that. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. I actually feel like this was the easiest of all of the paintings I did, but it's also one of my favorites. Win-win. Okay, next is Sharkskin, a darker grayish green kind of color. I was so stoked to paint a shark. I had to pull out all of my grays, but then I noticed something a little wonky. This greenish gray marker, T710, there were 2 of them, and I didn't have an extra marker, so I referenced the color guide on the back of the box, and out of all the colors, the one I was missing was this, T715. So I was missing a color and somehow got an extra of another thrown in. Whoopsie. But back to our shark. I started with a dark blue background color, and I'm not gonna lie, like this one was tough for me, you guys. I definitely had to go over and over and over certain areas multiple times just to get it to look right. So enjoy watching me struggle. That's all I have to say about that. I actually love this one. It was definitely worth the struggle. And hey, it was super easy to keep the swatch color visible because it literally was the color of Sharkskin. Next swatch, cow's milk, which for all intents and purposes, like, come on, it's white. yeah, off-white, whatever. Time to add, you guessed it, a cow. I debated for a while on what kind of cow to do. My personal favorites are the Highland cows, but I had already done so many brown animals, and spoiler, I knew the animal on the next swatch was going to be brown too, so I thought, okay, what about those awesome black Highland cows? But there wouldn't be a lot of color there, just black and gray, and I was down a gray. So I thought my best chance at getting some color in there was just to do a standard black and white cow with a cheerful yellow background. And I could add that sweet little pink and brown snout and give her some pink inner ears. And then I was able to give the white some depth with a few shades of gray. And ironically, the grays will also give the black some depth too. Low lights, highlights, all the same color. Tighten up a few last minute details. I felt like her face was too narrow, but hey, that was an easy fix. Sprinkle some yellow throughout, and here she is all done. Super cute, super sweet. She has such a smoochable little face. And with that, it's on to the 7th and final swatch of the batch. Dust Bunny, a warm little grayish color. Like I said, I planned ahead of time to make this bunny brown, actually based on a children's book that I just loved as a kid, where a white bunny teaches color theory and ends up coming out brown at the end. However, on this swatch, the browns looked even more orange than ever before. I probably should have stopped right there, changed my plan, and gone with a gray bunny instead, but I told myself to trust the process. And well, for once, that was a bad call. One bad choice led to another. I ended up doing entirely too many highlights to try and save it. Chose this bright pink for the background that looked just awful against the swatch color. Tossed up a Hail Mary and added some grass to try and save it. I didn't hate that part, but I kind of feel like the rest of the bunny was a huge letdown. I mean, it wasn't awful, but for the last one of the video, man, I really wanted it to hit hard, and this just ain't that. But it is what it is. Well, here they are, all of the sweet little animal paintings we did today. I definitely think my favorites of the day were the ostrich and the pony. Like, I freaking love them. But what was your favorite? I'm curious. Let me know in the comments. I had fun doing all of these, and as far as the markers go, like, they really did a good job. I think it could have been obviously even better if there were more colors, but I enjoyed using them, like the ease, the juiciness, the flow. I did swatch all of the colors and have a note on opacity. Like many Artex sets, it's kind of inconsistent. Some are pretty sheer, then some are 100% coverage with one coat. I'm starting to think that's just par for the course. But I'm definitely going to continue to use these. They have unseated the Simp Taps as my new favorites. And hopefully by the time I'm done with this set, they'll expand their color selection, and then I would definitely buy another set for myself, like no question. Also right now, Artex is actually doing their spring sale on Amazon where everything is 15% off. You don't need a code or anything like that. Just go check the links in the description. But thank you all for joining me for yet another Pantone challenge. I know these tend to be far and few in between, so I really appreciate your patience as I get around to doing them, you know, whenever I can. You guys are awesome. But thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.